Hello there everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another episode of Should You Pull for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Today we're going to be looking at Lann and Reynn of World of Final Fantasy fame and their EX weapon, along with their banner mates Faris and Edgar. Now, there's a few reasons that I really kind of want to dive into this banner particularly, because I really enjoy Lann and Reynn as characters, and I mean, I know his EX isn't on this banner, but God forbid I might actually have a reason to use the Edgar EX I pulled all those months ago. So if you guys want to learn more about Lann and Reynn, what their kit is, and whether it's worth pulling for them at all or not, then stay tuned and keep on watching. Don't forget to check out all of the links in the description box below for all of my social media, including my Discord channel, where we will talk about Dissidia Final Fantasy and FFTCG and all sorts of other stuff. My Twitch channel, which I've been pushing extra hard recently, and you guys have been so amazingly supportive. And I've just finalised my Twitch schedule as well, so don't forget to go and check that out. My Patreon page, where we can get access to early access videos and all sorts of extra perks for that. And I did want to quickly talk about the last video I posted, which was my Dissidia awards ceremony, and that got such a positive response, and I'm really, really pleased to see how many of you guys have stories of your own about your favourite EXs and least favourites, your unluckiest, luckiest, all sorts of things. Everyone's had such great experiences with this game, so if you haven't checked that out, definitely go and watch that as well. So we'll get started with the character on the man that doesn't have an EX at all, and we're going to talk about Faris. Now Faris, like I said, only had access to her 15 CP and 35 CP weapons, so she doesn't have an EX right now. But quite honestly, she's actually pretty good without them. Because if you don't have a character that's capable of dispelling, Faris is one of the best characters at it, purely because not only does she dispel, but she debuffs like a monster. So the attack that you're going to be using more often than not is going to be Cannon Fire, because what it does is it is a poison, attack down, defense down, and it also gives a max brave down as well if you have the 35 CP weapon. It's also a group attack if you have her level 60 passive ability for crystals. It also boosts all of the stats that she debuffs. She actually does a lot with just one attack. You have to master it first, like a lot of the FFI characters, which means after a couple of uses that you master it. But what if you've got her 30 kit and you've got all her crystal passives and everything, it only takes one use for you to master Cannon Fire, and she gets quite a lot of uses out of it. And then she also has Water Whirl, which is it's a brave attack on its own, but if you have her 55 CP passive, it's a brave HP attack that actually does quite a lot of damage after as long as the opponent is debuffed, and it actually does a decent amount. It's not going to have like loads of brave overflow or anything like that, but at least she can do damage. But the main reason that you'll be using her is because if you have access to her 35 CP weapon, when you use Cannon Fire, it removes all debuffs on all enemies, because it's a AoE attack, before inflicting the debuffs. So it just means that she just really does well against anything that buffs itself too far. You're probably not pulling on this banner for Faris, but if you don't have her kit already, she is a nice character to have. So next on the banner is going to be Edgar, and Edgar is a little bit of an unfortunate character. Now, I actually got Edgar EX randomly when it came out, but looking at his kit, I'm assuming that a lot of people don't have Edgar EX because nobody really pulled for it. I didn't mean to, I just happened to get it. But it's definitely one of my picks for least used EXs, that's for sure. Because what Edgar is he's designed to do damage to machine units, and that's pretty much it. He does a couple of debuffs if you've got all of his gear and his crystal passives, where he'll inflict sap, which is always a nice debuff, but then Lilith does it 10 times better while debuffing. He does do damage with his drill attack, which is a brave HP attack, and it will do really good damage against a machine unit, but it doesn't have none of his stuff except for his EX has any kind of brave overflow. His debuffs are pretty average if you ask me, and he's kind of useful against a machine unit because he'll lower their defenses to their max bravery, things like that, while doing a large amount of damage to them. But because he suffers by not having a brave overflow, and to be honest, his EX ability, even if you do have it, only gives him an attack that has some brave overflow and a buff that kind of boosts his damage depending on how many debuffs your opponent has got. But you're not gonna break the damage cap very quickly with him. He's just not gonna do an awful lot. So as much as coming from somebody who has Edgar's EX, he's a bit crap. I don't like saying that about any character, particularly not ones I have the full kit for, but he's just not going to do an awful lot for you. Even though he's going to be a synergy unit for this event, if you have his kit, yeah, he's probably going to be usable, but your highest damage dealers like Sephiroth, Renoa, Golbez, etc., Jekt, they're probably going to do a much better job than he is. Like, Jecht in particular, the enemies are all weak to fire in this event. So if you have Jecht and Lulu, just use them. They're going to do very, very well. So now we come to the banner-focused characters, which are Lann and Reynn, who are brand new to the game and adorable, I might add. I actually love World of Final Fantasy. I really enjoyed it when I played it, and I really like these two. But in Dissidia Opera Omnia, they are weird, for want of a better term. So looking at their base kit without their gear or anything like that, the idea behind them is that they do various different elemental types of damage. Now, how that works, I'll quickly explain, because they have a part of their EX kit that works this way. If you're dealing multiple elements of damage at the same time, what it will do is the game will calculate whether an enemy is weak to one of the elements that you're using, and if it is, you'll hit for weakness damage. If they're weak to multiple elements, it doesn't matter. You'll hit as if they were weak to one of the elements that you were doing. So it will pick the element it's weakest to, and it will pick that. If it's not weak to any of them, and it's resistant to even one of them, the game will pick the highest resistance that the enemy has, and it will go with that. So it's very much a double-edged sword. Like, you're going to use, like, Thunder and Geocrush is Earth and Thunder, Blizzard and Water is obviously Ice and Water, and then they have a fire attack as well, and then they enchant themselves with their EX attacks so that they're enchanted with all 5 of those elements, so that their basic attacks do all 5 elements. So, like I say, it's a double-edged sword, because if they're weak to any of them, you'll hit them for that damage, and you'll hit them pretty damn hard with Lann and Reynn. But if they're resistant to any of them and not weak to any of them, then they're going to hit like a wet noodle, which isn't going to be great. But the actual basis of their kit, they have 2 buffs, which come with their level 55 and 60 passives. Well, sorry, they start the fight with them if they have their 55 and 60 passive. They get them by using the base versions of their attacks, which are very, very weak. But if they have that, they get some really nice buffs. Like, they take less damage. They take less bravery damage. They've got a large max bravery buff, a big attack buff. If they have both Mirage S and Mirage L. So as you can see by looking at what I'm looking at here, then when the quest starts, they start with both buffs. If they have both buffs, then they get the plus versions of their attacks, and they get a wide range of kind of static buffs as well. They don't have any buffs that benefit the party, so as you can see there, so Mirage Keeper raises most stats while Mirage S and L are active, raises their own attack and speed while buffed, moderately raises max attack and brave while buffed, max brave and attack while buffed. They're quite selfish units, but their entire kit does AoE damage, so that is where they shine, is that they're supposed to be used with high uses. They've got a lot of uses of their abilities. They have 8 uses apiece if you have their full kit, and they're designed to kind of just target a particular elemental weakness and just hit it as hard as they can. They're great for clearing trash waves, because if you have their 35 CP or 15 CP weapon, as you can see, their Blizzard and Water Plus or Thunder and Geocrush Plus do 100% splash damage across all enemies. Now, there is no other character in the game currently that can do 100% splash damage on a non-EX attack, and Lann and Reynn can do both. Now, the issue when it comes to Lann and Reynn's kit is that they have no bravery overflow on any of their attacks. So even though they're hitting really hard, they're not going to benefit from it as much as certain other characters would, because they're going to hit their bravery cap and it will stop there. Basically, if you want to use Lann and Reynn, and they aren't bad, if you want to use them, then you have to kind of capitalize on make their max bravery as large as physically possible. So Rosa will be a good party member to have with them. Saz will be a decent party member with them. You just need to increase that stat as high as you physically can. Barret and Agrius with their auras will work. Just make sure their max bravery is massive, otherwise you're going to be just leaking bravery everywhere. There'll be a flood of wasted bravery all over the place. So looking at Lann and Reynn's EX weapon, which gives them the attack Sonic Fangs, it's going to be pretty useful for their kit, but at this point, the same can be said of any character. If an EX weapon is available for that character, then it obviously is going to make them significantly better than if they didn't have it, and your character will be a little bit gimped for only having their 15 and 35. But what Sonic Fangs does is it gives them access to the 5th element that they were missing from the rest of their kit, which is fire. It instantly breaks all enemies, which is quite nice. It does a 6-hit Brave HP attack on all enemies, which is 100% splash damage. It gives them a stack enchant buff, which is a frame buff that gives them an enchant for all 5 of the elements that they use. So earth, fire, ice, lightning, water. So you get like just this mass elemental beefcake, if you will. And it also extends Mirage S&L for a turn, which is nice because the plus versions of their basic attacks don't increase their duration for Mirage S&L. So when you go into a fight, you have 4 turns of it before they fall off, and then you have to use the weak versions of their attacks to get the buffs back, or you can use Sonic Fangs to try and increase it. And with a slightly slow recast rate, it will take a little while before you run out of those buffs, but you will run out of them eventually. And the idea being is that because you have so many uses of their skills, you're just going to be able to just get the buffs back and then get another good round of just high damage with them before anything else. And then the limit breaks for their abilities are kind of dull. They just raise the bravery damage like they always do, they raise the recast rate like they always do, and then the last one is just raises max bravery, which is good, because that's what you need them to have, because they don't have any Brave Overflow, but it's a little bit dull when you compare it to a lot of other units that have much more interesting limit break passives on their abilities. And then having a look into the distant future, they do have an EX+. Unfortunately, it's not the best in terms of it's not game-breaking in any way compared to some characters that we've seen. But what it does is it will give the stack buff. When they use their EX, they'll also like debuff the resistance of all those elements that they've just gained, which is kind of nice. They gain an HP attack, an HP attack plus rather, that does have a Brave Overflow on it, and it extends the duration of their Mirage S&L, which is nice, so that they can keep it going longer. But ultimately, it doesn't really do an awful lot. They get the stack enchant at the beginning of the quest, which is nice, and then the EX can overflow, but it just doesn't. The fact that they don't have a Brave Overflow on their kit is such a shame, because their damage output is really powerful. If you pair them up with anyone that debuffs a resistance on whatever that they're hitting for, they're gonna be really strong when it comes to just doing damage. Like Brave damage is gonna be off the charts, but the HP damage is just limited by the fact that they can't overflow. And I wouldn't normally complain about such a thing so fervently if there weren't so many other characters that just do that. They're like Renoa, her HP attack hits above her max bravery cap just by pressing HP attack plus. You know, Golbez does ridiculous amounts of damage, and when you're doing AoE damage, you're going to be hitting bravery a lot anyway, so you're going to be capping out pretty frequently when you attack with Lann and Reynn, but the HP damage that you deal is limited, and ultimately it's the HP damage that's going to be killing your enemies, not the bravery damage. So it's a real shame that they don't have that. But one thing I will say for Lann and Reynn is I think that Setzer will get decrowned for best like trash wave clearer or cycle quest farmer or anything like that. Because you go into one of them, just press one of their skills and things will fall over. Because you're dealing a massive amount of damage because they'll have both their buffs to begin with when they enter the fight, and you're just going to clear waves like they were like nothing. So there is that to be said for them. So as you can see here, it's been pretty recently that Lann and Reynn got their EX+, as well as Edgar EX+, which will be the next time that they get the chance to get their EXs, which will be during Lann and Reynn's Lost chapter, which is going to be, 9 months from now or something crazy. So if you want Lann and Reynn because you're a fan of the characters and anything, Edgar's EX+ is nothing to write home about either. So if you want to get the most out of them, then picking them up now wouldn't be the worst idea. But with such meta-defining characters coming out in the next few weeks like Zack and Vayne, there's going to be just more important banners for you to pull on, quite honestly. And this is coming from someone who really likes Lann and Reynn, and I really want to love them in this game, and I might drop a few tickets on them just because I'm a fanboy and I like the ease of farming cycle quests, so I'd like a reason to use them. But ultimately, I think that they're pretty underwhelming in terms of the meta, as is Edgar. Even on this banner that comes forward in 9 months or whenever's time, Edgar's EX+ isn't fantastic, EX+ isn't fantastic, Lann and Reynn's EX+ isn't fantastic. This is just a nice banner for you to be able to save your gems on. So do I think that Lann and Reynn's banner is worth pulling on in Opera Omnia this week? It depresses me to say it because I love the characters, I really, really do. But unfortunately, I don't think that it's wise to pull on this banner. We've just come out of a really high-end recovery period where we've had to just recover from getting Renoa, or I certainly have had to recover from getting Renoa and Lena and Gold Bears and Sephiroth and all sorts of these big damage dealers. And Lann and Reynn are really cool because they have a unique thing about them where they have the multi-element casting. They can hit pretty much any weakness in the game that isn't wind or light or dark. They've just got some really odd things about their kit that's really cool. But ultimately, they're going to get thrown away pretty quickly, and they're not going to last you a long time. And then even when their EX Plus comes around, there are much better characters than them, like either side of them. So like Ultimecia, Emperor, people like that are just going to outclass them. So upsettingly, I don't think this banner is worth pulling on. Like, Edgar is still pretty naff, if you ask me, and I think he's just destined to be naff for ages. And then Faris is pretty nice, but, you know, she's not worth pulling this banner on. She's just a nice character to have if you do go in for Lann and Reynn. If you're a big fan of the characters like me, sink a few tickets into it. Maybe you'll get lucky, get a free EX, and then you could just buy their 35 with some weapon tokens, but even then, you're probably going to be wanting to save those for Freya at the end of the week. So, I wouldn't recommend this banner at all. But thank you very much for watching. I do recommend you check out various different things in the Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia community. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Inkwelder and the Tonberry Troop by giving us this wonderful infographic here. So if you want to pause the video and have a quick overview on Lann and Reynn, then you can do that right now. Don't forget to check out DissidiaDB.com for all your information and resources when it comes to looking up any character you want to know about, or anything about Opera Omnia for that matter. And don't forget to check out all of the other content creators for OO out there, because there's loads of us out there, and we really appreciate the content that we do each other, and we really appreciate you guys coming to enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out all of the social links in the description box below, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Thanks again. Bye.